guys, and welcome to another episode of the SaaSy Talks. Today, we have a very special guest with us. He is undoubtedly a marketing leader in the SaaS ecosystem with almost 10 years of experience with SaaS companies, with creating brands, connecting the products with the right customers through effective GTM strategies. He's, in fact, one of the pioneers in the B2B tech SaaS marketing. He's worked with companies like Razorpay, Verloop, Unbxd, and now working as the marketing director for Hatica. Please welcome Karanvir Gupta, who, by the way, is also an author of a book called The End. Welcome, Karanvir. Welcome to the SaaSy Talks.
Hey, Ishan. Thank you so much for having me here.
Karanvir, before we get into your, extraordinary journey with, different kind of SaaS brands, I have been for a very long time. We've been talking, for multiple times in the past few months. I've personally also wanted to discuss about this book that you've written, right? The End. That's the right title, right? The End.
Yes.
Yeah. So just a few minutes, I would want to understand one. I think you wrote it during the pandemic period.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh.
So
yeah, please.
I think it is just it is about a person who is stuck in the pandemic time, and he just takes that journey, a journey back into the time starting last 30 years, and how life evolved and kept changing, and how things have changed considerably. How we, like, from our personal connections, our connection with ourselves, and how we are dealing with the entire ecosystem, how all this has changed. So while being in that space, where the person is stuck in the four walls of the room, the story is about all those forgotten relationships, or probably, about your career aspirations and how life has been changing for an individual and the world at large. It is just set at the backdrop of a pandemic, but it is all about preceding 30, 35 years and how life has changed. So, yeah.
Interesting. So was this a long dream that you had, that you wanted to write a book, or was it just to, pass some time and, with some quality during the pandemic that this book came around?
No, I think it was a childhood dream to author
Nice.
a book. It's been
Amazing.
a long journey. I think I took a long detour to even begin writing my first book, which happened to be this. The real fact is I actually did write two books, and they were half manuscripts, and I just left them. The project was shelved. I was not convinced. Halfway through, I was like, okay, no, this is not it. And then this pandemic happened, and there was a lot of epiphany, there was a lot of revelation in how the world was reacting to it. And I was actually just jotting details for some of my blogs, and I thought, why not capture this? And in that entire process, I realized, no, it's like 2 blogs or 4 blogs might just not justify the entire, the chaos or the pandemonium which this entire pandemic has created. And that's how the entire idea of this book, The End, happened. So by the way, The End has a, small subtext which is let us live again. So it's like, there is always a new beginning after the end. So yeah.
Amazing. Is there a second book we can expect anytime in the coming years, or are you satisfied with, fulfilling your childhood dream?
Wow. So I think it's an interesting one. I think you're never satisfied with one book, and
sure.
yeah, you can definitely expect.
Awesome.
I'm actually already working on some of the projects. But
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so nice to hear. I think you are one of the few people who actually utilized the pandemic and the lockdown period and brought out something really, really valuable for the entire audience, the entire set of people. Amazing.
Yeah, I think I was so moved with this idea that it just took me 21 days or like probably a month.
Wow.
And I had the entire, I remember it was just that 21-day curfew just got over. And by the time I had the full story on a paper, there's a storyline.
Wow.
And I was so convinced in my head that the story needs to be told. Eventually, a lot of parts were added as when the pandemic got worse.
Yeah.
And it was beyond control. But yeah, then I kept adding parts to it. But I think, yeah. So that's how it happened.
Amazing. That's really nice. I think for a very long time, I also had this. I think I perceived myself to be a good writer, but as I started growing up in age and started realizing it's just in my mind. It's similar to what, how my mom always felt that I could be a model or an actor. I think that same kind of a thought I had with respect to how I was with with writing things. So I have a lot of thoughts in my mind, but I don't think I'm able to translate it really well when it comes to writing on using some words. But yeah, so I have been I read a lot, especially in my early days. I used to read a lot. So yeah, books is a part of my ecosystem always. So when I got introduced to you, when I started stalking you on LinkedIn, that's when I realized, and I was like, yeah, this is something I really need to discuss with this guy. Like how did you actually do it? Awesome. So you were in the you started, like, how did your education look like? Like, you are of course an IIM alumni, right? Again, one of the achievements that people like me always dreamt of. So was it always did you have a structured plan in place from childhood that, okay, I'm going to do I'm not sure if you've done engineering or not, but
Yes,
was
I
IIM.
have.
You have. So engineering and then MBA, was it a structured plan that you had in mind, or just like many of us, our parents thought this is the only way to live life? Was it that?
I don't know. I think it was just like many of us. There was no structured plan, to be honest. No structured plan at all. If it were me, I think probably I would have gone into literature and arts and,
I'm sure.
probably, yeah, and pursue something which was more less brain. But yeah, I think how all, Indian middle class families, the journey looks like. It's like you need to have a stable
Yeah.
job and you need to be pursuing your passion after that. I think like many of us, it just happened that way. Yes, though when I got done with my engineering, and I'm so glad I did it in VIT. It was a very cosmopolitan culture. It was a very there was a lot of exchange of ideas that happened on the ground, on the
Yeah.
field. I think that just made
Yeah.
me ready for my next leap, and I was more sure in my head what I really wanted to do next. So after
Nice.
that, it has been more like a plan. Till engineering, it was never a plan. It all happened just organically.
Of course. Nice. I think you raised a really good point about VIT and and similar private colleges for engineering. I think more than when you compare it with a something like an IIT, right? Obviously, there's a difference, right? But this is something I also realized when I did my engineering from a private college. I think with these private colleges, the main advantage that comes in is your peers, right? The people that you spend time with. As you mentioned, right, there were so many ideas to exchange during that tenure, right? I think the kind of crowd that comes in these kind of good private colleges, right? I think it really turns it around. It was similar for me also, right? During my engineering, obviously, by the time I was doing my engineering, I had no idea what I was doing, right, and why I was doing, right? But when you meet, obviously they are all people at the same page probably, but when you bring down ideas and you start looking at world with different perspectives, I think that brings a sense of maturity in people. I think that is where I think private colleges have done really well, and yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, ideally, I think education, the purpose of education is to make people liberal and open to new ideas
That's
and
right.
thoughts and give them the, authority in their head that they can take decisions for themselves. So ideally, all educational institutions should like be operating in that ecosystem. But yeah, that private colleges do have a leverage right now. So yeah.
Nice. So how was IIM? What kind of an impact do you think today that 2-year journey has had on your career so far?
I think it has had a huge impact, if you ask me, in multiple ways. In terms of how you engage with the outside world, how your communication, how do you present yourself. There is always all are like individual stories that remain to be told. I think that entire 2 years in life, they make you so polished about how to present and how to work on ideas. From that, gathering those small little parts, which is absolutely important for somebody. Leading a business function or leading a business idea, it just becomes so important. And those 2 years actually play a huge role, like how this entire persona or this human being is shaped up. So yeah, I think they just have had a huge impact and how my onward journey looked like and how it was from there on.
Amazing. That's right. So let's move into the interesting part of the podcast. Why we've got you here is to get
So,
some secret recipes of how you've, driven success for clients, not clients, but the companies like Razorpay, Unboxed, Verloop, and Hatica now. And I think all of these companies that you work with have been at different stages in their own journey, right? And I think that's what I am really eager to understand. I think Razorpay was your first, that kind of a venture in career,
yes.
if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. So it was the second one. But before even I
Yeah,
start answering this question, I probably, I always tell these two words to myself. Thank God, B2B SaaS happened to me.
you told me
I'll tell
this
you a
earlier.
short
Yes.
story. Yeah. And it is very interesting. So I remember, this JD was rolled out, floated in the campus when this company came. And I was in a bad habit of dissecting these JDs, literally, and map my personality type to every trait which they would have mentioned.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, fine, is there a fit? If I am not convinced in my head this is not a fit, I would probably not even apply.
Okay.
And then this company came and they had that very specific requirement. Like a person should have worked in a night shift previously. A person should be should be comfortable writing long form content. And there were like multiple things like this. And I literally called up home and I was like, by the way, the company had come where I'm getting placed. And my family was shocked. Like it's not even done and he's not even like gone through the first interview. And this is how ISI Networks happened, basically, which happened to be my first company. I think since then there's been no looking back. That was my gateway into the Silicon Valley of India, the B2B SaaS space. There was just a lot of B2B SaaS for that matter, and your product marketing as a function. They both were sprouting probably in the full bloom back then, which was
Right.
7-8 years back. And I think it just happened to be the right time. It was serendipity at its best. But so thank God for it. How these companies happen, I think it was amazing. All these companies have had a very different kind of DNA. And I also picked up very different skill sets and, I delivered very differently in these organizations. When I started working in my first organization, I was like, okay, fine. My biggest learning was you start small, but you be willing to work on everything and all things. So there is no saying no to some work which is coming your way. I moved to Razorpay. That was a very conscious decision, I think. I really wanted to pick something which is very hot because my learning curve, I really wanted to see an exponential learning curve. Fintech was like with demonetization, the fintech and the entire digital landscape was just revolutionizing. Razorpay happened. I think my speed and my eye to detail was something which I learned when I was in Razorpay. So
Nice.
that's how my journey kept moving. I moved to Unbox, which is now acquired by Netcore.
Yeah.
So when I was working there, I really learned that building credibility as a marketer was something which you really needed. I had never thought about it. That I learned there. There are more stories to that probably which we can talk later. And then there was this Verloop happened where I was like, okay, fine, there is an effort. Where is the ROI? So, in the early phases of the career, you really do not think of every activity or every, deliverable mapping to an ROI. But as in when you keep going in your careers, it's very important that how you map ROI to effort, ROI to different projects. I think Verloop was that case. And now at Hatica, I think it's more accountability and sense of ownership. So this has been my journey. I think skill sets, they just become so inherent part that you do not count them as something which you are like learning on the go. But there are so many other things which you keep learning and contributing back to the organization. So yeah, this is how my journey has been in B2B SaaS space with these different companies. And I think all of them are doing great today. So yeah.
Yeah, these are great companies that you work with. I'm sure your value has been, the value that you added in these companies has also in some way helped these companies grow. So let's start with Razorpay, right? And everybody knows about Razorpay, right? When did when you came into Razorpay, what was your role? Like, what was your set of responsibilities that you were asked to take over initially?
Okay, this is very interesting. This was the first product marketing hire they were doing, and I joined
Okay.
in that capacity for product marketing. Um, so I'm saying, no, this is a lot of these things were just serendipity. They just happened, but
Yeah.
for me, they just worked in my favor because I actually enjoy doing that entire storytelling part for a product. What my product is solving, how exactly the customer and the end user is going to use it. What challenges are we going to solve with this product feature? And like products like Razorpay, at certain point they can be very technical to explain it to users. So your storytelling has to be very sharp, brief, concise, clear. simplified to say. And I was hired as a product marketer, but then I eventually realized there was a lot of customer advocacy I was working with. I was very actively talking to customers, trying to understand how they're using the product.
Mm-hmm.
Then I also found myself working a lot on sales enablement, which is a very different arm. But yeah, as a product marketer, it just like trickled down to these two arms a little more, and a lot of branding activities like how do you want to position the product, how do you want to communicate about the product, what the messaging is going to be about. Yeah, these were the key things which I was working on when I started working with Razor.
All right. So before we dive more into it, can you explain to the audience that watches this podcast, how is product marketing different from a general marketing role? I think this is something that a lot of people get confused with, right? When they hear product with marketing, I think people misunderstand what product marketing actually is. Can you describe a little more about what product marketing is? Because I think you've taken that role one by one in different companies.
Yes, I think this is one of the hottest questions. I'm not sure how many search queries come every day on Google, but how product marketing is different from product management and how product marketing is different from marketing. It's a tough one to crack. To begin with, I think how a product marketer should function and will function and what exactly his KRAs will be, what exactly he'll be working on, depends a lot on what the company goals are, what company is set up this person or this role with, what are the expectations on this role are. So it varies. But if you ask me how this marketing, the general marketing and product marketing are different. Product marketing, you can probably, you can assume that product marketing is the fluid that flows in between the organization. It's not something. So if I take marketing, I would probably, presume marketing to be my outbound thing at the outset, like how you distribute, how you communicate, how you talk about, emails to everything which goes out. But who exactly feeds into this? So there has to be some person who understands the technicality of the product, ties that entire narrative for the entire marketing team to understand that, hey, this is how it is going to be communicated to multiple channels in different languages, different creators, or a different copy. Who is that person who's going to build this gap between the tech teams, the product teams, the feedback that comes from customer teams, the on-ground reality coming from sales teams? So I remember there was I still do, by the way. There is I wish I could show you that. There is a diagram which I keep showing to my teams every time I begin my, new role. I tell them, hey, this is how it is going to be. And this is where the fluid, which is like a river flowing from different teams to the marketing teams, this is what your product marketing is. So it's very, I find it very difficult to, fathom this fact that when a product marketing is like, considered as like one key KRA or a KPI. It's not that. It's very fluid in nature. And sometimes it becomes very difficult for a product marketer itself to justify the value for what he is probably building the communication gap or bridging the communication gap. They are not tangible things; they're intangible, but they are magnanimous in terms of the impact they have on the outputs and deliverables of a marketing team overall. So yeah, I think that's how I look at product marketing, and this is how it is different. Product marketing, in short, is the entire input. Information or the input source for the entire marketing team, and then marketing team probably will have a social media marketer and a sales enablement person, or probably somebody like a PR person, and so on and so forth. So a digital ad person. So yeah, that's how I would differentiate those.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like that was a very simple yet effective explanation. I think it also cleared a few doubts that I had in mind about product marketing. I feel this is a very important role to have, especially in the SaaS ecosystem. I think what I have also seen is that when if you look at the general marketing function, I think that input needs to come from the product side. I think that input is coming from the product marketing side, because there obviously will be a translation from that input to the final output that the marketing team does through social media or through an email. But I think that technical understanding is, that gap exists because of the technicalities sometimes that exists a lot in products like Razorpay, for example, right? This is so when you came in, and as you mentioned, right, this was the first time Razorpay, like company like a Razorpay, was hiring in for product marketing role. I think that clearly shows that it was the beginning of product marketing as a role in the Indian SaaS ecosystem at that point of time, right? And probably it was already existing in US and the Silicon Valley, but in I think Indian SaaS startups started understanding the importance of having product marketing as a role. So when you came in, of course, it was probably new for you as well, right? As a role, what were the main challenges in the initial part of your journey with Razorpay that you felt, and how were you able to solve them? Just shed some light there.
Okay, so I think it was very initial phase of my career. So I had like endless list of challenges, to be honest. I really did not know where to begin from. I really did not know. Oh, and on top of it, the product itself was so inherently complex to understand. Like you really would need to sit with somebody technical to understand the API calls, what's happening, how how this entire card ecosystem works, and so on and so forth. So A, to understand the product itself was a huge challenge. B, how would you stitch that entire story together so that it has an appeal to the mass to which you want to sell? Now, does this product, have a audience? It had a wider audience. Like everybody wanted to use a payment gateway or a payment solution in X, Y, Z form, and there were multiple use cases. How do you decipher these use cases? Now, the point is there are also folks who might not be so well acquainted with the technicalities, but they are also willing to buy this product. How would you simplify this product to that level? I think these were my core challenges. I don't think as a marketer I found it challenging, but as a product marketer, understanding the product and translating that entire thing to internally also, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Like if you are going and sitting with the content writer and telling, hey, this is what we want to write and this is how the positioning should look like. It's very challenging because you are talking about those parts which you will literally not see. You only see enter OTP and the payment is done. So what happens backside of the backend? That's what you need to explain to somebody, and that's what you're writing about, which does not come naturally. I think that was my number one challenge in this entire thing. Second is, I think at that point in time, it was very difficult that how will you attribute a lot of ROI to multiple activities you're doing, because you know that fine at the end I'm going to get n number of leads, or this is the pipeline and this is how the revenue is being generated. And if at all, and by the way, at that point in time, so early in my career, I was also given a revenue target. I was like, okay, fine, how do you get this revenue? Where do you get this revenue from? I'm not even able to figure out how to sell this. And you're telling me to get, and it was a huge target. Like for me, somebody who was starting, it was just 3 years into the ecosystem. I was looking at numbers which I've only read on papers, like those numbers, and I was like, okay, fine, this also needs to be done. And then we obviously figured out a lot of segregation. These are SMB products, these are enterprise products. The products need to be differentiated. The GTM has to differ. I think what I learned the most in that challenging ecosystem was how will your GTM keep changing inside a single organization also if your product and the nature of the product is changing. So I think for that I have always and now I keep telling my teams and I keep telling everybody, every time you have a new product coming in, every time you have a new project coming in, please go and look inside. The answers are all inside your organization first. The half part of the problem gets solved by looking inside the organization. The second half of the problem gets solved by talking to customers, being on the ground, talking to folks who are going to be your prospects or somebody who's already in your prospect pipeline. But yeah, I think so. This is how this entire missing pieces just came together to help me out.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really this is like it sounds like the ideal kind of journey that you would want to have, right? Give not unrealistic, but very very challenging kind of targets, and you have no option. You have to work towards it, and then you figured out ways to do so.
You just need to figure out a way to how will you achieve that, because there is no there is no option. There's no other option for you. So you probably will go back into the storyboard and figure out what pieces can be fixed where, and how will you go achieve that target.
Right. How was the team there? Like, I'm sure there would be someone above you whom you would be reporting. How did that environment help you during that initial part?
Okay, I think so. There was this entire. It was a very typical structure which we had. We had a team of 5 and 6 people, I think. 4 to 6 people in and out. and then we all used to report to head of marketing. That was very this thing. But as and when the product started, as in there was a full product suite which was being built. Now we
Yeah.
went from 1 to 4 and then to 7 products, and I think now they have much more than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think then we started figuring out that okay, we need PMMs for particular products, and then you need probably pods where this PMM is talking to a certain content writer and a social media, because the language changes, the tone changes, how you present that product changes. So then the team kept expanding, but it was very typical structure of everybody working together and all reporting to the head of marketing.
Head of
So that's how
marketing.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how this was I think about 2 years where you spent with Razorpay, 2.5 years, I
Yes.
suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'm sure you learned a lot. And then how did the next switch happen? Was there a point where you thought, okay, this is the most I can learn with Razorpay and I need to move forward? Or was it just a new, better opportunity coming in your line and you said, okay, let's move?
No, I think actually Bingo, you're man on that. That I actually just thought, this was it. This is the most I can learn from this ecosystem. And if I continue, I probably will end up doing the same stuff which I was doing for the last 2 years, probably on a different product. Because I'd shown and I'd proven that, okay, fine, this is the product, this is where we could be, and we had everything set up. So I did not want to get into the same, routine of like doing the same activities for a different product in the same ecosystem also. At that point in time, I think I told you, right? So after engineering, everything was, I tried it to be more structured. So at that point in time, when I started looking out, AI was being talked about every, EP article in Bangalore, and you pick up a news article and there is just AI and all of that. And I was like, okay, fine, AI, but like, how does it really, impact you and me? Does it impact the end consumer? And I found, yes, there are companies who are doing amazing stuff on that, and on e-commerce sites and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay, fine. After fintech, it's going to be AI. So let's go just figure out that company. And that's how Unboxd happened. And I moved from Razorpay to Unboxd. I was blown away by the product. I really did not know something like that existed. Because it's so it's so common for all of us to just go and search headphones on an Amazon, or probably or shorts or something, and you just do like a search and you're like, yeah, this is just a search query and some products are showing up. But is there a science behind it? I was like mind blown. Wow, there is a science behind it, and people, companies, make these products and technologies to amp up this consumer satisfaction just by showing effective search results. And that's how Unboxd happened.
Yeah, I think search engines look the most simple kind of feature or a product, but are probably the most complex thing that in the initial internet journey was built. I think it really was a game changer because the internet was massive and you needed some science to bring out a set of things that you're looking for, right? It started obviously with Google, but as and when e-commerce started pushing in, Alibaba coming in, Amazon really growing up, I think search engines became very, very important. So what exactly did Unboxd did, right? How did it impact the search algorithms?
Yeah, there were different at the back end, which were being operated on different search functionality. So there are now, if I remember it correct, there are merchandising options. Do you want to show squash colors or not? Or do you want to show which items will be the top 3 queries result? Which brands you want to promote? Then there is a recommendation. So probably you have a bought a Snickers and a slip-on. So probably the engine has to pick that this person might be actually going out for a vacation. So you want to do a duffel bag or a tote bag. So how this entire thing works, there are multiple facets to it that on the browse, when you go to a category page, specific category page like books or probably spectacles or electronics, how the products will be lined up, which will be on the first row, which will be in the second row. That was what we call it browse functionality, and merchandising happens in between that. And then search is all which is happening on the query. Now there are voice search and visual search. So there is just endless possibilities. But this capabilities at that point in time, and they're already expanding a lot on that features and functionality. Yeah.
Amazing.
So this is how that's what they were doing.
So what stage were Unboxd at when you joined in?
I think yes, they already had raised Series A, and
Okay.
we were they had crossed that entire 0 to 1 phase was all done. So this phase
Nice.
was very different. It was 1 to 10 already, at the cusp of like even going beyond that. So, and I think what there was a challenge was how will you project your brand or your product to the outside world in a magnified way, which had not been done in the past. So I think that was the stage where they were at that point in time when I joined. Yeah.
Okay. So again, yeah, please tell me like what kind of responsibility or role that you took up with Unboxed, and probably you can talk about a little about again obviously the challenges that you face, but you can pick up some really, if you remember anything that was really really interesting, that you still have that memory of.
I think yes. I have a story to tell here. So
Yeah.
And I'll go in the reverse chronology. So I had completed 2 years in this organization, and I was receiving these congratulation messages and notes. And some of the oldest employees in the organization, they sent me a note saying, "Congratulations on being the longest-standing marketer in the history of Unboxed." And I was like, "Wow, that's an amazing message to do." And I actually then that was the first time ever in my career I asked myself, what did I do right in this role? Because this role was, in practicality, it was no different from a typical product marketer's role. It's just that it was more expansive in its geo outreach because it was spread across the world. Razorpay was pan India. Unboxed was selling in US, EU, ANZ, APAC.
Right.
So it was very overwhelming to begin with. But I think I was very comfortable working in these different geographies and how my multi-channel approach will change, how my messaging will be a little altered and tweaked to suit that audience, how my content has to vary. So I was very comfortable after one point in time, but it needed a lot of cadence because when you're dealing with multiple geos, you need to keep your eyes and ears open to what's happening on the ground, pulse check what's happening. Did this fly? Did this not fly? Or what worked? What did not work? So then I had completed 2 years and all this happened, and I'm like, okay, fine. What did I do right? Or probably what did I do wrong? Then I realized there are 2-3 things that I did right. One was I had very clear objectives, short term, like which I will lead and I will own, and they are going to change quarter on quarter. And I set those objectives very clearly in front of the entire organization. Second was I was very proactively taking buy-in from the key stakeholders.
Okay.
I'm doing this. This is what's going to fly. This is what the company needs, and this is how we're going to build it. And I think that was second right thing, which I was doing, that getting the buy-in so that there is no surprise. Like one morning they get up and they see some post and they're like, oh wow, what's this? What about? So because nobody wants that surprise in an organization. Which has been my major learning in my career, that you really need to sell marketing internally first and then to the prospect.
Agreed.
So it's a tough one, but yeah, believe me, if you are able to crack this, you will turn out to be a great marketer. Third thing was I was very much hell-bent that I need to have I need to know where my company is headed to, and what exactly, or how my founders and how the management are probably looking at that company persona and the company brand, because that's my long-term goal. Short-term goal is something which I can take a call on. I can figure out what works, what does not work, what will work for you, and I will then take a call on it. But I probably will not be in that position where I can tell you where that particular XYZ organization is going to be in 1 year down the line and 2 years down the line, which is something I need a buy-in and a confirmed word from higher up in the management. So I would do those exercises very, very frequently. So this helped me align everything together. Nice. Last is, I was transparent AI. If I'm trying something, it's not working, it fails. I have no call. Right. So to me, the point is, I don't know if you have read this recent post by an Airbnb employee which said, all what Airbnb has been is 8% of the successful marketing experiments, which means 92% of the experiments did fail. Now, I tell my team that if you are a marketer, experiment fast and fail faster, because if you're not doing it, you do not know what to eliminate and what to really, peg your money on. So that was the first time ever in my career where I thought there was an intrinsic shift in how I was moving ahead in the right direction, because I did that reflection on my part. What parts were, what was that thing which I did right in that journey? So yeah, I think it was, I mentioned that while I was in Unbox, building credibility as a marketer is something which I thought
Yeah.
was very important.
Yeah.
And I think these 4 points which I talked about,
Yeah.
communication, setting clear objectives short term, having a buy-in into the long-term objectives, and building clear communication. I think these things together help me overcome these challenges in that particular ecosystem.
I think a couple of points that you've raised here are very, very important for anyone pursuing marketing or trying to grow in their marketing career. One, I think most people know about it, but are really it's difficult for them to accept is experimentation, right? There is nothing that can happen. You cannot hit the dart in the center every time. You will try out, and whenever it hits in the center, just replicate and scale, right? That is one. I think this is still out in the market. People do understand that, okay, experimentation for marketing is important. Not just marketing, I feel everywhere experimentation is
Everywhere,
required.
yeah.
Yeah. But second thing, I think very interesting that you've raised, and because personally I've not really worked in a corporate environment, I think this for me personally also is a very good insight, is about selling marketing internally. I think in the previous experience that you were talking about with Razorpay, again, there also you mentioned, I think this is something that people I feel really, really miss. You are able to find answers internally in the organization first before you decide upon what goes out. I think this is very, very important, especially I'm sure with very early stage companies this scenario won't really exist in that manner, because even internally there are still things that are broken or need to be understood along the journey. But when you've at least reached cross that 0 to 1 kind of journey, I think a lot of things are clear. And so I feel this is an amazing insight, and something that everyone should understand. There are times when marketing is not given that recognition, right? Internally in the organization. And again, I have no personal experience of this, but yeah, this is something that I've heard from a lot of people. But I feel if what would the approach that you follow, keeping everyone internally aligned, finding answers to the problems that pop up in your mind and what you look at internally, and making sure that everyone is prepared for what is going to happen, and nothing comes off as a surprise. I think this is really important for a marketer, and especially if you want to start leading the marketing function. Um, do you agree? Do you think this was really, really important for you to also grab hold of?
Okay. So I'll answer that in two parts.
Yeah.
So to the first part which you mentioned, that in early teams it might not be so important to get a buy-in. On the contrary, it is even more important to get the buy-in, because everybody is so emotionally involved with the product at that point, which is like 10
That's right.
folks or 25 folks.
Yeah.
You will have more counter arguments, and you will have more strong points, like why you should be doing A and not doing B. There is more, the opinions are more vocal, and
Yeah.
and then there are more strong-headed opinions, because it's a close cohort. Then suddenly you will realize one day it has moved from 25 to 70 teams, and that would have diluted a little. But now, as a marketer, as a head of the marketing function, it becomes even more important that now you actually tell the entire cohort of 70 people that this is what we are doing. So I think the stakeholders keep changing, but this problem remains from the day zero, that whether you are able to have that buy-in internally or not. That was some part to the beginning of it. Second part, where you told me about this market is not getting recognition and all of that. So I'll put it this way: it's like closures happen, it is sales. Closures do not happen, it is marketing.
It's marketing.
So,
That's right.
So I think though this has begun to change, but I'll tell you what, there are multiple reasons for this. I'll start with the lamest reason, which is I think generally people believe that everybody knows marketing, and hence there are more opinions. Because they see the craft, which is marketing, they do not see the science, which is marketing.
That's right.
Now this is something which builds a huge gap, because I, in my experience of 10 years, and I came with the conviction of art, but then I learned the science of marketing, and that's how where I am. But when people give their feedback, that's only looking at the craft they give the feedback. So that's one. Second is I know this is this is very difficult, but the moment somebody tags marketing to just lead generation, that's a perfect recipe for disaster. Lead generation is an important output for marketing teams, but that's not the only thing which everybody needs to understand. Third is in continuity of this entire second sentiment is building word of mouth, building brand, positioning, messaging, building the persona brand for the founders, or sometimes the product itself at large. These are also things which you might not have tangible output metrics, which you might not have very big attribution to. You might see a certain campaign going out, and you will see a spike in direct traffic. It's all correlated. It's all in relation to one another. There are no direct outputs for that.
Right.
But this is also something which is much more complex than, by the way, generating leads. But the moment you just keep trimming that marketing is about lead generation, I think that's where you are not recognizing the efforts of marketing. So I think this is where this is what I feel that the challenges are. So it's not about marketing not getting recognition, but there are intrinsic factors to this marketing ecosystem and perception about marketing ecosystem, which probably makes it more vulnerable in comparison to others. So that's I think that's one part. The second part is when you talk about all of this, I think this has already begun to change with this entire sign-up ecosystem, reverse trials, premium, free trials. I think the gap between the sales and the marketing is already bridging. With this entire PLG motion, everybody realizes that where exactly marketing and sales are going to intersect, where are the shared KPIs and the KRAs, how the responsibilities are going to be shared. In a lot of companies, SaaS companies, the product experience journeys are driven by marketing folks and not by product folks. Product folks probably help them in enabling with the right touch points and the trigger points, but marketing plays a heavy role. So I think now these lines have started becoming a little more blurred, and teams are working more closely with each other. And I think from today on, like probably in the next 5 to 10 years, you will see this entire problem of marketing not getting the recognition being more diluting away. But yes, it has been there. I will not deny that. But it comes from the intrinsic parts of the ecosystem.
Absolutely. I think you raised a really good point about the, having a perception of marketing connected with lead generation. I think nobody can understand it better than, people like us running agencies. When we talk to clients, all they want to hear is, kitne mein, like in how much money can you get, how many leads, right? That is their own the simple question that always, like not always, but yeah, most of the times have. But I completely agree. It has we personally have also seen this perception getting changed, especially when we talk to people like you, and there are many clients that we have who have a similar mindset, who do not really directly align marketing with lead generation. I think that is very much important, because I know lead generation is important, getting leads is important, but I think what is more important is first to build that system, have that system in place that can, eventually lead to proper, good quality lead generation, right? And obviously there'll be a collection of attribution that will happen. There'll be something coming in directly, spike in brand searches, spike in direct traffic, all of these things also happen. And that is where, on the other hand, that is where people have been missing out. Like, for example, if I talk specifically, right, LinkedIn ads in the SaaS ecosystem is considered by many people, when they've tried out LinkedIn ads, they've given up in a couple of months, right? And they've declared that this does not work, right? Let's say this does not work for them, right? Not generalize it, but at least for them. Problem is that how they are looking at the entire, LinkedIn ads as a function, right? If you're looking at directly like a lead gen channel, right from month one, then of course you will end up shutting it down. But it's much more than that. I think this is very clearly aligned with what you just mentioned happening, right? So you've worked with multiple geographies, I think, and with Verloop also. Was Verloop India focused, or were you managing different geographies?
It was also global in its appeal, but yeah, it was India and SEA and MEA a little more than the rest of the world. Yeah.
So, which geography for you as a marketer has been like the toughest to crack? And probably if you could, talk about why has it been tough?
Okay, I think it is not about which geography is tough to crack, but it is
Hmm.
about how much willing you are to deploy efforts in dollar in that particular geography. I think that's the
Agreed.
bigger question to answer. Uh, in my experience, every geography has a very different style of how prospects want to be engaged.
Right.
You go to the west and the close that the CXO dinners and the CXO roundtables,
That's
they're
right.
a thing there. You go to the Middle East and you will realize that the tech expos and one-on-one meetings really play a huge role. They want a
That's right.
personal connection. They really want to have that one-on-one conversation about your product, my problem, how I'm going to solve that. You come to India, a mass communication helps because I think in technology curve we are quite ahead. We understand technology. So if it's a tech
That's right.
product, people would want to do their own research and then probably have a buy-in and not buy-in into that product. You go to SCA. It's about are you delivering them valuable assets and collateral or not. That's where probably the inroads to it. You move to ANZ and you will realize that the partnership ecosystem really works well there.
That's
So
right.
I don't
That's
think
right.
it's a tough nut to crack, but it's something which comes from where are these geos on your priority list?
Yeah.
What dollar amount you're willing to spend on respective geographies. I
Yeah.
think that's why companies today are so cognizant and so conscious about, hey, these are my priority geographies because they have done that entire in the PMF, phase. They've also tried to figure out which geos I want to really, hunt for and where I really want to be selling my product. So I
Hmm.
think that's something which is more important than
Hmm.
figuring out which is a tough one. But I do think when it comes to so overall, when it comes to US and EU, it becomes a little more challenging,
Hmm.
especially if you're operating from based out of India. Like
Yeah.
how you will operate an entire digital footprint, digital channels. You be there and still involve, the people on board, and you're talking to them. You're having an ecosystem. Yes, there is a little higher inhibition in terms of the proximity. I think, which becomes which makes those geographies a little more challenging to crack.
Got it. Got it. So there is nothing like tough to crack. It's just as you mentioned, like a matter of prioritizing which geographies you want to really crack and how
Correct.
much effort and money are you willing to invest to
Willing
crack
to
that.
invest there.
Eventually, you are able to crack whatever geography you
Yes.
want.
Yes. Yeah.
Agreed. That's right. That's right. So any particular interesting story with regards to we've talked about Razorpay, we've talked about Unboxed, Verloop. Let's talk about Verloop before we move into your current job role in Hatica. Any particular? I think. Sorry.
Yeah, uh, I think the interesting story in Verloop has more about the entire ecosystem.
Hmm.
As a marketer, I think otherwise it was a pretty normal marketing gig which I had. But I realized when I was dealing with the entire positioning and the messaging part of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was a tough place to
Yeah.
be in
I.
because the challenge is sometimes what happens, generally these ecosystem and spaces, a company does not define an ecosystem in a space. It's like the entire ecosystem defines that particular segment, and then you happen to be in that segment. So
I agree.
we were
I
dealing with
agree.
that conversational AI thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and how conversational AI platforms vary in their feature functionalities. Where do you belong to? What exactly you have? What your competition has? I think sometimes these are very tricky parts to understand and make other parties also understand. So I think that was an interesting, interesting phase from a product marketing side. That how these spaces and these definitions can play a huge role in how you will present your product to the outside world. So yeah, that I think that was an interesting phase there. So,
Right. I think this is like chatbots is a cluttered market, and I think post pandemic, like during the pandemic, I think it became like many more players started coming in, just like what we're seeing in the Gen AI space probably right now.
yeah.
So we work with Line Chat, and I think the challenges there were all absolutely different. Specifically, Verloop was a competitor for Line Chat, and that's how I know about Verloop. But with specifically with as you mentioned, right, it was difficult to uh, you know portray or make the ecosystem perceive of what exactly you are offering. I think with the Lime Chat, the thing was about they were just catering to the e-commerce ecosystem, right? And doing that, where there is Verloop, there is Haptic, also catering to e-commerce and also catering to other
And the
players. And
enterprise, yes. Correct.
yeah, exactly. And I think this was a difficult, difficult ecosystem to actually to be in as a marketer specifically, I feel. With Verloop, like, what was the period that you were working here? Like, which year was this?
This was just before Hatica, which is last year and last to last year. Yeah.
Okay, so okay, all right. All along this journey, how important, this is something that I wanted to ask, how important has the marketing stack been for you, right? Like, probably you can also talk about what looks like your favorite stack right now. What do you need when, for example, you came to Hatica, right? I'm marketing director. I'm sure you have the authority to, take up tools that you want, stack that you want to, in order to deliver results, right? How does the entire stack look like? I think that is also very important for any marketer. Of course, the other side of marketing or product marketing is there, but I think the stack is also very important, especially with regards to the point that you mentioned, right? In that you always need to measure your efforts with the ROI, right? I think that's where the stack really comes into play and is very helpful. So how does that look like for you? Like, what would Karanvir have in his marketing stack?
Yeah, so I'm very prudent that way. And so you probably could literally call me miser as well sometimes. But I've been very particular about can you please not complicate this entire stack ecosystem and keep it simplified? Because what I really need, if you have those tools to show me what I really need, I think I'm good with that. But
Right.
over the period of time, I think I've realized having a one strong marketing CRM is much better than having the 10 tools doing the 7 different things. And then you really need to stitch it together, which is a difficult thing to do, which is not so easy. So I really do not look from a tech stack perspective. I look at from two angles. One is, do I have that funnel in front of me? Am I sorted with that? Which is, I know the traffic is going to come in onto the website. Website, I consider I think I do consider website as part of the stack basically.
Yeah,
Everything on the website has to be like seamless and flawless. You cannot have ifs and buts on the website.
yeah.
So from that traffic part, like when the traffic starts coming in, and to the point they start converting into leads and so on and so forth, and then they become an SQL opportunity. I think there are two, three things which I think are super, super important. One is having something like a GA or a plausible, which is
Yep.
which tells you what percentage of the traffic is coming from where, how you really want to slice and dice the traffic. It's very important for you. There is
Absolutely.
it's a non-negotiable.
Right.
Now, the moment people start leaving their forms and they start becoming a lead, and then there is a lead function. I really want to understand what's happening on these leads, which is like
Yeah.
probably a marketing CRM will help. I've worked with Pardo, I've worked with Salesforce, I've worked with HubSpot, and I think over the period of time, HubSpot eventually has been more sticky with me, and I've also been more sticky with HubSpot. Yeah, I know HubSpot can have like a full marketer fan club. So,
Absolutely.
but
I think there is Salesforce and there is HubSpot right now. I
yeah.
think that's a community war.
So I think it's just that how that HubSpot is more friendly to use. It has
Exactly.
just grown. It has just grown more pro marketers, and
Yeah.
now it has become so convenient that even sales teams also do not hesitate.
Exactly.
Deploying HubSpot for their entire. The HubSpot sales really works fantastic for them. But coming back to your point, so at that point where I know where my conversions are happening, because of which content piece and because of which landing page and so on and so forth, and it comes to the lead journey, and after the lead activity, I think that's it. These tools are sufficient until and unless and it also depends, by the way, it also depends which stage of the company you are, what exactly you're looking to expand. Do you
Right.
and do you need that much information and inputs and insights? So there are multiple tools. You will have, there are tools which are you really want to have a heat map reader or where you can study the website and all of it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's needed. But is it needed from day zero? I don't think so. You need to get the basics right. You really need to get that page up and running. And then probably you have 10 landing pages, and then there is a full website is looking like a tree of branches. Now probably is the time where you probably, you start segregating, slicing, dicing my scroll depth, where are the click points, the hot
Agreed.
points, and so on and so forth. So I think
100%.
it's a progressive journey, and then you
100%.
keep inserting tools, now and then, whether it is for
100%.
distribution, whether it is for amplification, or whether it is for stitching all data points together. But yeah, so I think you can start with the basic 2 to 3 tools in the stack, and I would really recommend that because you're more sorted, you have more clean information, and
Yeah.
now you know where to plug in the new stack into.
Exactly. I think one more thing today in this podcast, one more really interesting point that you've raised right now is s- calling website or landing pages as a part of the stack. I think that is something that many marketers miss out on. I think landing pages, probably, at least when you are building that system, I think that is very important to have in place. And as you mentioned, there should not be any ifs or buts with respect to the landing pages that you're working with. I think everything else will fall in place if you have the right landing pages. Once you have those, then of course things like heat maps and everything can come into picture. Your HubSpot can help you identify things at lead level and what actions they are taking on these landing pages. But if you don't have that right, no information is going to flow any which way, right? So I think this is also something that people don't talk about when it comes to a stack. I think for any marketer, landing pages are actually very
Yes.
important, right? So amazing. So now, we started off introducing you as a pioneer in the B2B tech SaaS marketing, right? Now you are the marketing director for Hatica. You've worked with very technical products before. Right now, you're also working with a technical products that is selling to the tech audience itself, right? This is a
Yes.
productivity tool for software developers. How different is it from your entire earlier journey? Because I think Verloop and Unboxed were almost in that similar
Yeah.
kind of space. Razorpay, of course, was technical, but I think it was in the initial part of your career, a lot different challenges. Now you've come to that point, selling to software developers, helping them improve their productivity, and of course, it's a tech product. How different has it been? First, with regards to the product and how you're marketing, and then we'll come to your role, which is obviously now you're a marketing director.
I think it has been absolutely different. I literally taking this role. I had to unlearn a lot of stuff which you would deploy otherwise, selling
Yeah.
to business teams. And when you so this is a space which we now call B2B, which is business to developers. So you basically sell to engineering ecosystems. I think I had to relearn a lot of it. I always my number one challenge across and across, through and through. I always say that it's very difficult to identify the right channels because if somebody is deploying wrong dollar, perfect copy, perfect creative on the wrong channel, absolutely it is going to be perfect disaster. That if you have not been able to identify a channel, nothing else will fit into the play. Now, why I keep calling this out is because the moment you choose a channel A, B, and C for the same audience, but still the format of the content, how this will be delivered, what the format and how exactly your copy or the message has to change, all this varies a lot. So I think since we were selling to developers and engineering teams, I was like, okay, fine. I really need to relearn a lot of it. Like where these people sit, drink, talk, engage. And, it's like you really take a deep look into the persona. And this persona is very different from what I have been dealing with in the last couple of years. So I think that has been my most pivoting thing in this current role. And I was like, in for a surprise. I think it was more than what I anticipated. I knew at the time when I started, working that this is going to be a little different. And I think that's what my objective also was with this role, that, I am very comfortable working with technical products. But selling technical products to technical teams is like, they are the stalwarts in understanding this.
Yep.
Can I fit into that ecosystem, simplifying this for them in a language or a form where they can consume it and absorb it and buy it? That was I was in for a big surprise, and that did happen. But yeah, I'll keep my fingers crossed. We're doing a good job at it, and I think we're on the right direction. But yes, I think that's been a very pivoting thing in my role when I started.
Right. So very specific question about the engineering roles that you're targeting, this audience segment that is there. For a very long time, I had this perception, and this has all come from, talking to different people, and different clients that we're working with, and we've worked with a lot of tech B2D kind of clients before as well. And the one perception that everybody has had is that these are technical people. They would, as you also mentioned, right, they would understand your product in and out very quickly, right? But these are people. This space requires detailed documents, like a long white paper kind of a stuff to get them to engage, right? And then Hatica comes in. You come in and you start working, and I think in the first month itself, I was the one writing Reddit copies, which were memes, right? And I think this flew from you only, right? That we can try this kind of thing. So tell me about it. Like, what is there something that you realized that this is not it, right? Again, I personally feel that eventually these are human beings, so any kind of stuff could work, right? But what's your thought on that?
Yeah, so okay, I'll tell you what. This is like breaking that blind spot, or in the clutter of your thoughts, you will stand out if you have something which is outside that clutter. So if you're dealing in with your tech stack and you're working on your engineering teams and the sprints and the retros and so on and so forth, day in and day out. And it's not about a developer persona or like an engineering team persona. It applies with every persona. If you keep talking about the same things again and again, sometimes you just skip it, because it's like you're already so tired, or it's a fatigue in your head. I really do not want to see this again. I really do not want to study this again. So my point is, especially when you're talking about these channels where you're using creatives and copies, I always say, irrespective of the performance, please let's use a creative and a copy which is A, simplified, B, which is concise and clear, and the communication, or probably the action item which you want to be, want this person to take, has to be a very hard hitting or probably to the point. So why? Because when people are scrolling, social channels, irrespective of whatever social channel they're scrolling, there is a certain amount of leisure factor in their head when they're scrolling. They're not in for like a serious conversation. Yeah, because I'm not signed up for, hey, let's do a one-on-one meeting on LinkedIn Live. So that's not how it works. It's like, hey, you want to read something, you want to get engaged into something. Oh yeah, this is about your ecosystem. You want to read it. So it's great. You show them something, but please tone down that a little. Make people comfortable in that entire message, in that entire option. That's one point. About the meme thing, yes, we did. By the way, we didn't go live with that as a channel for some reason. But we did try, and we are still doing these Fridays. We do this meme test kind of a thing where we pick up an engineering team problem and we try to post it like a meme. My point is, this is something which has happened a lot in the last 7-8 years. The B2B, the B2C, the B2D, at the end, you're selling to all humans.
Yeah, that's right.
You cannot beat the human psychology. You can have, your messages can change. You can speak in their language. You can speak about their problems. But if the channel changes, your creative changes, your copy changes, and also the tonality also changes. Like it's very simple, right? Instagram Reels work. Facebook, the videos do not work. Pictures work. LinkedIn long posts work. Picture in, out does not matter. Same people reading this content, but they consume content differently. So it's like same persona, engineering team, but probably buying like a cloud solution, they will behave differently. And buying something like Hatica, which is going to help them day in, day out, every day. And that's what we aim to become, like the landing app for all, developers and engineering ecosystems. Yeah, they will behave very differently while buying and evaluating this product. They probably will be more, granular. They might want to understand more, how do you operate? How will I look at these dashboards and so on and so forth. Hence, my communication needs to bring them closer to that point. So I think that's how I keep, playing around with this. And as I told you, I strongly believe that I will never, go by that very sharp and a very adamant thought, no, this will work and this will not work. If we can test, I will always vouch for test. And if the test fails, great, because now I know I'm not going to try this out again. And then, move on to something else. So yeah, and a lot of tests that we have conducted in the past with you on LinkedIn ads and search, they have worked well, and there are few which have not worked well, and I'm okay. I think test not working, to me, it's also a win, because now I have one lesser thing to work.
Exactly.
So
Like
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
how.
eventually it's about eliminating the different possibilities. Some work, some don't, but at least you're clearing it out, right? And you're
Correct.
finding out the winners. Amazing. I think the science of marketing is going to be my heading when I'm going to post this podcast. Anywhere. I think you are one of the very few people I've met that who's not just talking about sides of marketing, but you understand the science that goes behind any experiment, any effort that you put in. Um, um, so the yeah, so it's been an amazing towards the end any which way. Kanveer, like I really want to understand like how you've grown in the hierarchy also in the marketing and product marketing role. Now you're the marketing director. How have things changed in that aspect? Right now, I'm sure a lot of people look up to you. You are the decision maker, of most things. You're the driver. You're not someone just sitting in the car with the entire team. You are the driver of this car. How have things changed? I'm sure there are different challenges that come across when you've taken this kind of a role now. So yeah, how are you tackling those? Are you enjoying it? I'm sure you are, but like how much are you enjoying this kind of a role, or um, would you it's a different kind of a question, or would eventually we all work for earning money, right? We want to earn money, right?
Yeah.
Would you would you really trade off, get paid more and take up a role that is not a marketing director but someone in the team, but get heavily paid for that, or you are enjoying this and you want to keep growing in the hierarchy?
Okay. No, it's a tough one. I think
Yeah.
that towards the end you really threw a bouncer here, but yeah, so I think I really love doing what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I would not trade off this for anything else. I generally in career I have I do the scrutiny at the time of the joining itself, or even during the interview process. I've been
Nice.
very particular about what roles did I chose in the past, and where I'm jumping into. It's been great working at Hatica. If you really ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, I probably would call it as an 11. So that's
Nice.
how I'm enjoying it. I think that
Nice.
comes with the ecosystem you're working with, the management, and then everybody else, right? Like,
Yeah.
are they giving you that room and space for trying new things? Are you
Hmm.
being given enough liberty to take the decisions or not?
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
is it too much of, is it so micromanaged? So I think all these factors right now, they are such well aligned that I am like, okay,
Hmm.
fine, this is it, and I really need to do it. But I think one change when you ask me how these things have changed, I think one change which I've seen in myself in the last 1 year, having worked with Hatica, is I've become very passionate about my numbers. I do not let go of them easily. If it's not, it's why it is not. What you can go back and do it immediately, change it, pivot it, tweak it. Because see, it's not, sometimes it's not about that. Hey, it's a quarterly target, or this is what it is. Am I like, is it a buying for me also? Like, okay, this is the target we set for the company, and do I have your buying? And if I have said yes, it's like a commitment, right? And then you do not walk out of the commitment. You probably try to make things work, favorably towards achieving that commitment, or towards delivering towards that commitment. And
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I've changed, because I don't think in my initial career phases I was so serious, or I was so particular about numbers. I knew there was somebody else on top of me who's going to
Hmm.
be probably taking accountability for that, and my part was more executionary in nature.
Yeah.
And I know I need to talk, and I need to build storyboards, and I need to do this. But numbers, yes, somebody's going to ask me, and I'm going to help him achieve it, and he's also going to drive some of it. Now I know it's not going to be somebody, that somebody's me now.
Yeah.
But I think that just has given me a lot of a passion for it. Um, I think from day zero when I started my career, I knew I was a marketer. I was a born marketer. The storytelling comes
Nice.
very naturally to me. Now, this tying this entire storytelling to building a pipeline of X million dollars in a quarter, or so on and so forth, and delivering so much revenue. I think I'm just enjoying this ride. It is so
Nice.
fascinating to see how you try channels, how you deliver those results, and then you see that oh fine, this was a good quarter, or probably this is something which we did. I think
Yeah.
this is very fulfilling in itself. So it
Yeah.
has been an amazing journey. That way.
Absolutely. I think the answer is that we all are not actually working for money. We are actually working for the feeling of fulfillment. I think we all are looking for that.
Yes.
Some people feel that fulfillment coming from the pay, the money that we earn, and but end of the day, if you are able to get this kind of fulfillment by achieving, seeing how your efforts actually, turned out, right, and how what kind of value you were able to add in any organization that we were working with. I think that is what keeps many people going. I think people like you, I think even for me, as a matter of fact, I think it's the sense of fulfillment that actually keeps driving us to do better every time. So yeah, amazing. So yeah, just last bit, and I can't leave you, let you go without this. You have to say a few words about Growth Spree. How has the experience been working with Growth Spree? Be honest. It's okay, I can still edit it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'll tell you what. I am. I would be the first one to not hire an agency at all. So let me tell you this, because I'm a big fan of having an in-house team, and not really a big fan. I really tell that it's a golden rule. Number one golden rule in teams I have worked in, teams I have led, and teams which I've built from the scratch. Like marketing teams cannot escape from writing something, and that to public. Which basically translates into that everybody has to have a thorough understanding and knowledge about the ecosystem, about the product, what value it solves, delivers to the end user, and also what problems we are solving for the end user. And it has to be, marketing is such a it's an interwoven thing. All different folks together build that brand together. So for me, it's very important that everybody has the same stake as everybody else in the team. They understand the product, they deliver that same brand in the same tonality, same style. And for that, it's very important to have folks in-house. Despite all of these things, we still went ahead and we had Growth Spree, looking into our all, paid media plans and all of this. So when I started working, I was very apprehensive. I think our objective was we really did not want to spend too much time in the hiring and the onboarding process, then having the person settle in with the product and all of it. And we wanted somebody who could, pick this thing from day zero, start faster, and then the lead time is less. So I think with your team, that actually happened. They proactively came on board and what does the product do? How will it function? And they also pushed my limits to ensure that I am able to explain the product and what we do and what we deliver, to the end user. So I think that was amazing on part of your team. That how did they pick up on the ecosystem and the product? Yes, it took some time, but still, to my to my understanding, they did a better job, or they were faster at it. Second is there's a lot of feedback which happens between them and me, exchange of ideas, and the turnaround time which happens on implementing those changes and how you will want to execute them and how this will impact. I think that has been amazing. So coming from a person who's a big fan of in-house team, so we are working with an agency. I think that speaks already a lot about how your team has been doing and how my experience with them has been. So yeah. But it's a challenging one. I always say, because to get on board agencies and keep them trained and onboarded with the new product features, functionalities, how you want to roll out in the market, it's a difficult thing. Right now I'm having a good time with Growth Spree team, because it has just been that it's been a convenient point of interaction and exchanging ideas. The communication, I think, plays a very important role when you're working with an agency. So your team is good at it. I am also good at it. So we do a decent job of working along.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I am glad that it is working out and you are enjoying to an extent working with Growth Spree. And I hope we are able to keep delivering better results and keep meeting your expectations. I think one thing is for sure that, my team has taken a lot of learning from Karanvir directly, right? And this is something that they've communicated directly to me, and how they've enjoyed actually working with Hatica as an account, and how especially, my content team, which is your probably your forte as well, right? Like my content team has actually learned a lot in the last few months. So thank you so much for that. So yeah, thank you so much, Karanvir. So I feel this was a really, really great session. I think there was so much to learn about from your experience, from your journey. I think I am completely impressed and inspired with the way you have taken and structured your journey and how you've taken the kind of decisions that you've taken in in your career. I think they are extraordinary, and hats off to you. And personally, I am a big fan of your work. I have told you this before as well, and I will keep
Thank you so
asking
much.
for help always. You
Absolutely.
won't. I won't let you go like that. So. Thank you so much, and yeah, that's it. That's it. Thank you so much again for your time, and we'll keep
Thanks,
talking.
Ishan, once again for having me here. It was amazing talking to you. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.